there is a quiet war taking place. One without guns, smoke, or blood. A war so subtle that most of its victims don't even realize they've already lost. It's not fought on battlefields, but in screens, algorithms, and invisible systems that shape thought itself. The enemy doesn't want your land, it wants your attention. Somewhere in the last decade, humanity's most precious resource changed. It used to be oil, then data. Now, it's time. The only thing we can never recover once it's taken. And young people, more than anyone else, are surrendering it willingly. One notification at a time. They wake up not to the world, but to a screen. Before the first breath of morning, their minds are already somewhere else, trapped inside an endless scroll designed not to inform, but to numb. Every color, every sound, every word is calculated to keep them there, locked in the illusion of choice. What they don't know is that this isn't accidental. The system was built to feed on youth. Not their bodies, but their curiosity, their fire, their sense of purpose. The brightest minds of the century weren't hired to cure disease or end poverty. They were hired to make you stare longer. The architects of distraction learned how to hijack human psychology. They studied dopamine like alchemists once studied gold. They found that fear and pleasure, outrage and validation are the keys to control. So they engineered a world where you can't escape either for more than a few seconds. Every swipe is a small surrender. Every click, a fragment of freedom exchanged for a moment of stimulation. The cost? The ability to think deeply, to feel fully, to dream beyond what's shown to you. Slowly, the inner world collapses, replaced by a feed. And yet, the victims smile. They post, they share, they laugh through filters and measure self-worth through pixels. They call it connection, but behind every perfect image lies a growing emptiness, a silent echo of meaning lost. It wasn't always this way. There was a time when youth meant rebellion, discovery, the courage to defy. Now, rebellion itself has been monetized, sold back to them in branded slogans and curated outrage. Even their desire to change the world is guided by algorithms. Look closer at the faces in the crowd. The glow of the screen lighting their eyes like candles before a shrine. They don't look enslaved, they look entertained. But make no mistake, this is captivity disguised as comfort. The tragedy is not that they are controlled, it's that they don't care. Somewhere, deep inside, they know something's wrong, but the dopamine rush drowns the whisper. Discomfort is just another tab to close. The system doesn't need chains when the mind is distracted. It doesn't need walls when people build their own cages out of convenience and fear. What began as entertainment has become anesthesia. Soft, addictive, inescapable. Behind it all are invisible architects. Not villains with faces, but forces with agendas. Profit, control, predictability. A generation that doesn't question is a dream for those who profit from obedience. The irony is cruel. In an age of limitless information, ignorance has never spread faster. The more they scroll, the less they know. The more they express, the less they feel. The more they connect, the lonelier they become. Reality is being replaced with simulation. Experiences are replaced with content, conversations with comments, identity with image. Slowly, humanity's essence dissolves into the static of the digital ocean. Parents watch helplessly, not realizing they too have been consumed. Teachers lose the battle against attention spans trained to crave chaos. And the few who see it happening are dismissed as paranoid, outdated, irrelevant. The future is being stolen, not with violence, but with comfort. Because comfort kills curiosity. It breeds compliance, apathy, and silence. And silence is all that's needed for control to take root. Every generation believes it's free. Every empire convinces its citizens that they chose their own chains. But this one is different. It's global, seamless, and invisible. No armies needed, just screens. There was a time when revolutionaries fought for truth. Now, the truth itself is fragmented beyond repair. Each echo chamber breeds its own religion, each algorithm its own god. There is no shared reality left, only personalized delusions. And that is exactly how power thrives. Not by forcing belief, but by dividing it. A divided generation never unites, never rises, never questions the hand that feeds its distraction. But beneath the noise, something stirs. There are those who feel the void growing, who sense the artificial light burning holes in their souls. They can't explain it, but they know. Something has been taken from them. Something sacred. That feeling is the first sign of awakening. It's the soul recognizing captivity. The system fears that moment more than anything, because awareness is the first act of rebellion. The truth is, the future isn't being destroyed. It's being traded, piece by piece, for convenience, validation, and the illusion of belonging. And those who trade it don't even know what they're losing, because the greatest theft doesn't happen in banks or governments. It happens in hearts and minds, slowly, silently, until one day you wake up and realize your dreams no longer belong to you. Young people aren't losing their future by accident. They're being guided away from it, gently, through entertainment, through fear, through endless distraction. It's a theft disguised as freedom. And as they drift deeper into the current, they begin to forget that there was ever a shore. That once life felt vivid, real, unsanitized. That once they were meant for something greater than this endless scroll. But the forbidden truth remains. They still are. The future isn't lost. It's simply forgotten, buried beneath noise, waiting for someone brave enough to listen. When they do, everything will change. Because the moment you reclaim your attention, you reclaim your destiny. And that's when the real war begins. They say every generation must wake up to its own nightmare. But what happens when the nightmare is comfortable? When the prison walls are made of light, laughter, and convenience? That is the paradox of this age. A generation lulled into submission by the illusion of freedom. The architects of distraction learned long ago that true control isn't enforced through fear, it's maintained through pleasure. Give them endless entertainment, endless validation, endless noise, and they will never notice what's being taken away. It began with connection, the promise of unity, of breaking barriers, of giving every voice a platform. But what emerged was something different. A digital labyrinth where everyone speaks and no one listens. The illusion of communication replaced the reality of understanding. Each post, each share, each like feeds a machine that learns your mind better than you do. It knows your fears, your desires, your impulses. It doesn't predict your choices, it shapes them. And once you depend on that machine for identity, it doesn't need to control you anymore. You control yourself. The greatest trick of modern power is not censorship, it's saturation. Flood the world with noise until truth becomes indistinguishable from fiction, until exhaustion replaces curiosity. Then the youth will stop asking questions, not because they're afraid, but because they no longer care. Every generation once dreamed of changing the world. This one dreams of going viral. Every movement that begins with fire ends in hashtags. Every cause is diluted, branded, and monetized before it can ever threaten the system that created it. The digital age promised empowerment, but it delivered dependency. A world where validation is currency and silence is bankruptcy. Where identity is filtered and timed for maximum approval. Where authenticity has become a performance. And yet, beneath all the noise, the pain grows. Silent, collective, invisible. Anxiety, depression, and loneliness rise like tides, while society calls it progress. But progress toward what? Toward a future where we feel nothing deeply, where emotions are replaced by emojis and love by algorithms. There's a reason the system targets youth. Not because they're weak, but because they're powerful. Youth is the seed of change, the source of rebellion. If you silence it early, you control the future without firing a single shot. The theft doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, beautifully. One lost passion, one abandoned dream, one scroll at a time, until one day they no longer remember what it felt like to want something real. Look around. Cities glow with artificial suns. People walk like ghosts, eyes fixed on glowing rectangles. Time itself bends to the rhythm of notifications. Reality becomes secondary, an optional background to the digital stage. Every distraction has a purpose. Every convenience has a cost. And the cost is always the same: presence. Without presence, there is no awareness. Without awareness, there is no choice. And without choice, there is no freedom. The corporations don't sell products anymore. They sell attention. They extract consciousness the way miners once extracted gold. The human mind has become the most valuable territory on Earth, and most people gave it away for free. Ask yourself, when was the last time you were truly alone with your thoughts? Not scrolling, not watching, not listening, just being. The silence terrifies most because it reveals the truth. There's a world inside you that's been forgotten. That inner world, the world of dreams, of intuition, of genuine thought, is the true frontier, the forbidden land. And like all frontiers, it's guarded. Not by soldiers, but by distractions designed to keep you from ever going there. Those who do manage to break through describe the same feeling: disorientation, emptiness, then a clarity so sharp it cuts. Because to see how much of your mind was colonized by noise is to face a kind of death. But from that death, something new is born. The system fears that rebirth. It fears individuals who think independently, who disconnect long enough to see the architecture of manipulation. Because a free mind cannot be predicted, and unpredictability is poison to control. But make no mistake, awakening isn't easy. It's not romantic or peaceful. It's raw. It's lonely. You'll lose things: comfort, distraction, belonging. The illusions will burn away, leaving only what's real. But in that rawness lies power. When you start questioning everything, the news, the feeds, the narratives, you begin to see the cracks in the illusion. You notice how every outrage fades quickly, how every new trend feels hollow. You realize you've been kept busy, so you'd never ask why. That why is dangerous. It's the seed of revolution. The moment you ask it sincerely, the system loses its hold. Because the act of questioning is the beginning of remembering who you are. The young were never meant to follow the path laid out for them. They were meant to build new ones. But now, their creativity has been harnessed, redirected toward consumption and self-promotion. They don't build worlds anymore. They build profiles. And yet, something stirs. The same system that feeds them distraction has also given them tools to communicate beyond it. Hidden among the noise, small awakenings ripple through the web. Quiet revolts of awareness disguised as art, music, stories. A new generation is forming. One that doesn't want followers, but truth. One that doesn't chase trends, but purpose. They are learning to see through the illusion, to reclaim their attention, to rebuild the meaning they were told no longer existed. It begins with small acts. Putting the phone down, walking in silence, remembering how to feel boredom, how to think slowly. These are rebellions now. Acts of defiance against a machine that profits from distraction. And as more awaken, the illusion weakens. Because the system depends on your blindness. Every time you look inward instead of outward, every time you choose silence over noise, something inside the machine begins to crack. The future isn't gone. It's being held hostage, not by monsters, but by the inertia of comfort. And every person who wakes up, who chooses awareness, becomes a weapon against that inertia. The moment you reclaim your time, your presence, your attention, the war ends for you. Because you are no longer a product. You are human again. The world doesn't need another revolution. It needs a remembering, a return to what was real before the noise began, before the dream of control disguised itself as connection. And it starts now, with whoever dares to look away from the screen long enough to see what's been lost. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can't go back. You can only move forward, awake, aware, unshackled. The question is no longer why young people are losing their future. The question is, who will take it back? And maybe, just maybe, that someone is you.